Okay, Jesus said in Matthew 5:19 to do and to teach God's law. God's law number 39, holy or unholy marriages. Here's God's law number 35 or 39 from God's law book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 22:13 through 21. And I quote, "Suppose a man marries a woman and after he goes into her, he turns against her and slanders her and gives her a bad name, saying, 'I married this woman, but when I came to her, I found no evidence of her virginity.' Then the woman's father and mother must bring the evidence of her virginity to the elders as they hold court at the town gate. Her father must say to the elders, 'I gave my daughter to this man to be his wife, and now he has turned against her. Now he has slandered her and said, I did not find your daughter to be a virgin, but here's the evidence of my daughter's virginity.' Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elders. The elders must then take the man and punish him. They must also fine him 100 pieces of silver, which he must pay to the woman's father because he publicly defamed a virgin of Israel. The woman will then remain the man's wife, and he may never divorce her. But suppose the charge is true and no evidence is found for the virginity of the young woman. The woman must be taken to the door of her father's home, and there the men of the town must stone her to death, for she has committed an outrageous crime in Israel by whoring while still living in her father's home. In this way you will purge the evil from among the nation." End quote. Immoral societies will hate this law, but this passage outlines procedures and consequences for defamatory accusations against a woman's reputation and also her parents' reputation. It aims to eliminate slander and uphold societal morality. Here are some of the benefits of this law. Number one, protecting women's honor. The law provides a procedure for a woman and her family to refute slanderous claims regarding her character. The requirement for evidence and public adjudication by elders was designed to discourage baseless accusations, providing protection against defamation. Number two, protecting parents' honor. The involvement of the woman's parents in the public display of evidence highlights the significance of parental honor in society. The law aimed to safeguard familial reputation from unjust attacks, which could have serious social and economic implications. Number three, deterring public slander. By imposing a fine of 100 pieces of silver, which would be the equivalent of about a half year's wages, and prohibiting divorce, the law sought to deter men from making defamatory statements about their wives. This penalty discouraged individuals from harming others' reputations without just cause. Number four, maintaining societal morality. To maintain social morality is to maintain the family unit. To allow any undermining of the moral family unit in any society is to inevitably self-destruct society and totally destroy any nation. Every civilization in history fell when the family unit morally deteriorated. Number five, judicial procedure. Laws that ignore, abuse, or undermine God's moral standards for individuals or families will destroy a nation. But to carry out moral laws obviously requires moral civil leaders. That's why, according to God's law, only godly men should be civil leaders, as referred to in other Substack posts on civil leaders. They were referred to as elders in the Old Testament, and church elders in the New Testament are also admonished to their shame if they don't adjudicate all conflicts, church and civil. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 1 through 5. This law greatly protects societal morality before marriage and helps establish and preserve societal holy marriages after marriage. Both are extremely important for the survival of the family unit and the nation. Number six, community responsibility. God's law does not allocate justice to be carried out only by civil leaders. Unlike all other constitution and man's laws, God's law is a blessing to read, to know, and to live by. Jesus summarized God's law quoting the Old Testament when he said, Matthew 22:37 through 40, quote, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as you love yourself," end quote. The Apostle John said in 1 John 3:4, quote, everyone who sins is breaking God's law, for all sin is contrary to the law of God, end quote. But with God's moral civil law, if prior to marriage a woman, quote, has committed an outrageous crime of whoring while still living in her father's house, the woman must be taken to the door of her father's home, and there the men of the town must stone her to death, end quote. In God's law, only the person who commits the crime is to be punished, but God requires father responsibility for his daughter as long as she is living in his home, and thereby appropriately bear this shame. Thus, the execution is to be done in front of the father's home. Now, when you hear execution by stoning, you may think that is barbaric. Most that think that is only because they have understood it from the ungodly justice and perverse executions by Muslims. But biblical capital punishment is by far the best and most humane for many reasons, as you can see in further substacks of stoning in Jim's Substack records. One reason the community can and is to help enforce God's law. It helps maintain righteous societal unity and being under, quote, one nation under God, end quote. And by obeying God's capital punishment laws and doing it his way, God concludes by promising, quote, in this way you will purge the evil from among you, the nation. Number 7, moral accountability. Political libertarians believe you should have, quote, freedom to do anything you want as long as it does not hurt someone else. But immoral civil laws allow for consensual immorality, but not according to God's moral law. That may sound good, but it is not only contrary to God's law, it's also the height of libertarian naivety to think consensual immorality hurts no one. The immoralists work overtime suppressing the truth. 1, the disease, AIDS, fostered and spread through homosexuality, never with any monogamous marriages. 2, virtually all sexual diseases are from all forms of sexual immorality. 3, sexual immorality affects deep emotional and far-reaching psychological issues. 4, sexual immorality affects unforeseen future marriage. 5, sexual immorality inevitably affects every present marriage. All of this has many other indirect ill effects on society at large. In Psalms, David first confessed his immoral sin against God. All sin is against God, but also always has ill effects on us here and now. But this is why the gospel is called the good news. This is the good news. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he will be a new creation. The old is passed away. Behold, all things have become new. That's why that's what he meant when he said in John 3:7, so don't be surprised when I say you must be born again, end quote. And if you have been born again, God says in Romans 8:1, therefore, there is no condemnation now for those who are in Christ Jesus.